Hey everybody, welcome back to Daily Meditations with Parker and Lindsay. I'm Lindsay and I want to continue on this theme that I started this morning of talking about rest. So if you joined me this morning, I talked about how the dominant culture in our country is really like productivity driven and doesn't really value rest. And yet we need rest. We need our immune systems need rest. Our nervous systems need rest. We need rest to be able to perform. We need rest to be able to think more clearly, to be kind and compassionate in our relationships. And so this morning we did a meditation around allowing ourselves to feel rest in our body and also noticing the rest in between sounds. And tonight we're going to do a different meditation. We're going to do a meditation that brings some awareness to our breath. And then after we've kind of given our mind something to focus on for a little bit, then we're just going to let go of the breath. We're going to let go of any doing. So we're just going to simply sit. It's a type of meditation called non-meditation meditation. And I'll guide you through it. And then at the end of the meditation, I'm going to give you just a prompt to think about for a little bit in terms of letting go of some expectations of yourself. Because a big part of what makes it hard to rest, particularly in this society that we live in, is this kind of trait or emphasis on perfectionism. So you may or may not relate to this, but I've been at UVM for 4 years and I've talked to so many students who identify as perfectionists, who struggle with perfectionism. And sometimes it's just kind of at a low level, where it just feels like, oh, I just can't stop myself from pushing a little harder and staying up a little later at night. And sometimes it's debilitating. Sometimes people just like break down because they cannot put that much pressure on themselves anymore. And sometimes students can be suicidal because the pressure of trying to be perfect is just too much. And right now we're living in a time where perfectionism is just not going to work. And I'll just say that really, really plainly. And you may have realized this already because we've been in this pandemic for about 6 months now, and you might have already realized, probably a lot of you have realized, that things just are not going to go as planned. And so if we keep on bringing perfectionism into a situation like this, it's just going to really exhaust us and potentially even be harmful to our mental health. So at the end of the meditation, I'm going to lead you through just a little bit of a contemplation around what expectations you might be willing to let go of right now. You know, maybe you're like a straight A student, and that's just like not being a straight A student is like feels like just not acceptable to you. Like, are you willing to be a little bit more open to the possibility that under these circumstances right now, that your mind might not be functioning as well as it usually does? So we'll get there, but before we do that, let's go into the meditation. And I want to give you some suggestions of how you can come into this meditation. So there's a couple of different options that I'll give you, but there might be other options too that work for you. So either you can be sitting up. I like to sit on a cushion, so my hips are a little higher than my knees. You could be lying on the ground and put your feet up against the wall, kind of scoot your hips towards the wall and then bring your feet up. That's actually really calming for some people, for your nervous system. You could lie down in your bed. You could sit in a chair. So just take a moment to tune in. It's like, what position does your body want to be in right now? And then put your body in that position. And you can either close your eyes or you can just soften your gaze. And take a couple deeper breaths. So deeper breath on the inhale and a slower breath on the exhale. And as you exhale, starting to let your body soften and settle. You might notice exhaustion in your body. I can feel that in mine. And that's okay. That's what's here. We're giving ourselves an opportunity to rest in our bodies. You might notice some tension. We're giving ourselves an opportunity to let that tension just unwind at its own time, not forcing anything. And then begin to notice just the natural flow of your breath. Breathing in and breathing out naturally. Just allowing your breath to be as it is. So we're giving our mind something uncomplicated to pay attention to. Likely during the day, your mind has been paying attention to more complicated things. So this is kind of like a transition. So your mind can pay attention to just something very simple, very uncomplicated, like your breathing. Noticing what it feels like to inhale and to exhale. You might notice your mind go off into kind of planning or thinking of random things. And that's totally normal. That's just what minds do. So when you notice that, you can just take a moment to celebrate that you noticed it. That's actually like a moment of mindfulness. So just celebrate you noticed it and then come back to the feeling of your breath flowing in your body. See if you can feel where in your body you feel your breath the most. You might feel it like in your belly, maybe in your ribs or chest. Maybe in your nostrils. Without tightening up too much, without tightening your focus too much. So relaxed focus, but aware of details. Like what does it feel like as the breath comes in? you sense that in your body? What does it feel like as you're exhaling? And again, your mind might go off 10 times in a minute. Your mind might wander off 1,000 times in a minute. And that's totally normal and completely fine. Just the moment you notice your mind's gone off, celebrate that you noticed it, and then bring your attention back to where you sense your breath flowing in your body. Okay, so if you want to keep on going with this, feel free. If it feels interesting or maybe challenging in a good way, if it feels just like this is what you need right now, you can keep on going with paying attention to your breath. But if you'd like, now you can transition to letting go of your breath and just simply sitting, just being. And you might notice your attention goes back to your breath or goes to something else, and that's just fine. Just kind of letting your attention go where it wants to go, not trying to control anything, not trying to make anything happen or stop anything from happening. Just simply sitting and being. Letting go of the doing. And if you find yourself getting really lost, kind of like really kind of wandering and not aware of that you're sitting here, and just let your body bring your attention back. Actually let the feeling of your body draw you back to right here. And then once you sense your body again, you can just let go of the doing and just sit. So there's no way to do this wrong. Okay, so if your eyes are closed, you can open your eyes. Maybe stretch out your body a little bit. Okay, so I just want to give you something to think about. Maybe you could journal about this before you go to sleep tonight. So I was talking about perfectionism, and a big part of perfectionism, I know for me has been connecting my kind of like my value and my worth as a person based upon what I do or like how I perform. Um, and uh, and so it can be a challenging but really growthful experience to see if you can kind of let go of some expectations of yourself, um, and then see if you can still love yourself even if you don't do as well as, you know, even if you don't perform the same way that you have expected of yourself in the past. So you can like just like do a little worse, do a little bit less. So before you go to bed tonight, just invite you to think about maybe one or two things, expectations that you have of yourself that you're willing, um, and maybe even just for a week, to kind of lower that expectation, you know, just a little bit, or a lot if you really want to do that. That's totally fine too. Um, so feel free to spend some time writing about that, and hope you rest well.